and tell a friend, drop a gem. Back in the house once again. Live the life that had diamonds and guns and now gems. Full gas, like a big shed, pull on films. The mall got the ball, run out and tell a friend, drop a gem.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. Let's see. You gotta get this. You gotta get this. There you go. Oh, let's see. Let's see.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Fall season with Sling. Sling gives you a custom channel lineup that lets you do game day your way. Get your must-watch games on channels like ESPN, ESPN2, SEC Network, and Big Ten, starting at just $40 a month. The biggest games, the hottest rivalries, and the teams you love. Everything about college football that makes you want to rush the field. Sling lets you do that. Go to sling.com/score to choose your channel lineup today.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at EquityZoneMortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast.
Grando Deportes, Bonjour, Vini Vini Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in them there hills and the universe. According to me and people who love the universe, that would be you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Want to be my neighbor. Shut up, fool. I'm trying to get ready for the OU Texas game. Yeah, but I do my thing at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was voted neighborhood watch person, and I try to bring everybody together. And some people just don't appreciate it when it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But that's their problem. It's not mine. I'm Big C Sports Podcast coming to you on a beautiful Thursday, October the 10th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you with a good lunch split you. And I love sitting people with a good lunch split them, if that makes sense to you. One beautiful, intelligent black man. I got a special guest on the day. As you always knew, I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all have a little laughter in our lives. I know I could use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling, and then I do the play-by-play. First and 10, the 50-yard line, 4 wideouts, 5-man front. I set formation for the Sooners. The ball is snapped. Holloway turns over, hands off to Billy Sims. He's breaking tackles at the 40, inside the 30, the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Sooners! Billy Sims, 50 yards. Well, not so fast, my friend. First and 10, 50-yard line, 4 wideouts, 5 men front. Vince Young under center the snap. Vince Young rolling to his right, rolling. He throws downfield. The ball is caught. Caught for the touchdown. Touchdown, Texas. How about those Longhorns? Big C, 50 yards. I have to get some equal time, if that makes sense to you, for Oklahoma and Texas. And then, as I always tell you on Big C Sports Podcast, I love doing my show. Got some college football talk today. Got a great guest on coming from Oklahoma. And he's also going to be at the Red River rivalry, if that makes sense to you, down in Big Dallas. My show is uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew back in the days at Salem Media. And now we have people who miss practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about people who miss practice, but I don't miss practice. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. I love shining reparations all over the world. I want to also say I love doing it on every Big C Sports podcast. I love paying homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. We know a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and they do their best to make sure our veterans get some help. If you know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And I love leaning on people when somebody's leaning back. You know, I'm going to get into my asset protection with the RDC team and the Big C team. And I'm going to talk about some NFL football. Are you ready for some football? Yeah! Up in the Pacific Northwest, the San Francisco 49ers traveling to take on the Seattle Seahawks. And what a game down in San Diego last night. Mookie Betts, runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball, swung hit deep, right field, back to the wall. Home run! Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. The Dodgers, they saved the day. And now they head back to Chavez Ravine. And while they head back to Chavez Ravine for a big game in the National League playoffs, Big C's going to head to the Big C Pause. I'm going to come back with Timmy Young. He's going to be at the Red River rivalry down in Dallas, Texas. You don't want to miss it. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. We're streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. I have a great guest. You know, coming from the great state of Oklahoma, but he has to go into Texas every now and then, and he tries to get out everything intact, if that's what I understand. What do they call those good boys in Texas? They call Highway Patrol in California. What do they call in Texas?
They call Rangers.
Rangers.
Texas Rangers.
Okay, the Texas Rangers, they named Texas Rangers for a reason. I have the pleasure of speaking with a great guest by the name of Tim Young, and we call him Timmy. Timmy's a former, he has a lot of great things going on. A co-author of Pathway to Trauma Recovery, and then owner a Heavenly Taste, educator, sideline replay assistant, men's group leader, and leader of a community nonprofit, former on-field football official, city commissioner, president of the NAACP, youth pastor, principal, athletic director, and I hear he loves to fish, and he says that the fish in Oklahoma are bigger than the fish in Texas. I can't confirm or deny that, but we'll ask, is that true? Is that true, Timmy? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it depends on what they're eating, but yeah, we have some good fish here as well.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
I hear he's also an avid golfer, in the words of the great Vernon Lindquist, on the 16th hole. In your life, have you ever seen such a putt? I hear he putts like Tiger Woods. He's also a great player of dominoes, and at the same time, I really do appreciate the fact that you actually played college football, I believe, at Oklahoma State. Your thoughts?
That is correct. Yeah, I played ball at Oklahoma State, recruited by Jimmy Johnson back in the days. Back in 1982, stayed there for a couple of years. Played with some great athletes at Oklahoma State at that time. We sent a couple guys to the NFL.
Yes.
Some to the USFL as well as the Canadian League.
Yes,
But,
yes. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
one of my classmates was Leslie O'Neal out of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
So Leslie O'Neal came in at 6'3", 190 pounds. Pretty good speed, and Jimmy Johnson recognized something and then dropped him down to defensive end, and from that point on, he became an All-American and All-Pro at San Diego with the Chargers.
That's amazing.
But we had quite a few guys, from that team, and back in the day, that's in the Big 8, and we played against played against Nebraska.
Yes.
Well, one game against Nebraska, it was a 1983 game, I guess it was.
Yes.
And one guy. This is one of the most inspirational stories in my life. But Roger Craig was a running back in the day, and Mike Rozier and
For Nebraska,
Turner Gill.
Yep.
They had that big red machine.
Yeah.
Well, Rozier takes the ball around the left end, and our quarterback steps up and hit him at the 10-yard line.
Yes.
Hits him high. Mike Rozier lifts him up, puts him on his back, walks the end zone, and drops him off for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Well, that guy's name was Rod Brown. Rod Brown, from that point on, went to the weight room.
Yes.
And he became something powerful, such as an All-American the next year.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that was little bitty stories like that, very inspirational. But to see that in live action, you think, man, that's a hoss. They had big Dave Remington at center.
Yes.
Of course, there's a award named after him now for the best center in America.
Yeah.
But yeah, my experience at Oklahoma State was really wonderful. We had a lot of good times there, a lot of big fun.
Yeah.
Good teams that we played against. We had some great talent on our team as well.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of the winning at OSU. Prior to that point, OSU had only been to a few bowl games.
Yes.
But, starting the 83 season, they went on a run of going to the bowls for quite a while. And, of course, Mike Gundy's there now.
Yes.
Keeping up a good record. He's one of the longest tenured head coaches in the NCAA.
Yeah.
He's been there 20 years. There's only been two other coaches. I think the guy from Utah, and I forget the other one.
Yes.
But anyway, Oklahoma State has a great tradition, but I ended up leaving from there after I had a heat stroke, which caused a bit of trauma, in my life. And,
right.
I cut my career short at that point, and then I ended up transferring to a smaller school, East Central Oklahoma, where I finished my career and got a degree in criminal justice and a minor in military science.
Yes.
And so it taught me how to be a sneaky criminal. But it was pretty good combination that took place.
Well, let me ask you, Timmy. You're at a game right now, I believe. So there might be some background noise, but that's wonderful. I appreciate having you on the show today. I want to go back to Jimmy Johnson in a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to the Oklahoma and Nebraska rivals, and when I think those great teams that Nebraska had got beat by Miami down in the Orange Bowl, and that is when Miami got on the map. But your thoughts about Jimmy Johnson? Now he's doing work with Fox Sports on NFL Sundays. He coached down there with you guys, the good old boys down at Oklahoma State. When he got his big name is when he went to the coach of the Dallas Cowboys with Jerry Jones, and he coined that phrase, "How about those Cowboys?" But tell me something about Jimmy Johnson that made Jimmy Johnson say something. How about those Cowboys? That's probably as big as any statement ever made about the Cowboys. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts on that was that I heard him say that when I was playing for him at Oklahoma State. That did not start in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
I think the Oklahoma State Cowboys is where that started. So,
well, fair enough.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that he did, my freshman year, we had a guy named Ernest Anderson.
Yes.
And Ernest Anderson was behind Herschel Walker in the Heisman balloting. And but the lineman had a shirt that I guess he had created. It was called. Everybody wore a shirt that says, "I'm knocking down for Ernest."
Yes.
And I thought that was pretty cool to get behind one person, in this Heisman run.
Yeah.
Fresh out of high school, I wasn't familiar with that.
Right.
But one thing, the most famous statement. And this one had to be told to me.
Yes.
When I was laying on the field after I had a heat stroke at Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Jimmy walked over and just saw a group of people there working on the player. Didn't know what it was, but he said, "Get him off the field. We have a practice."
Yeah.
And so that statement right there was pretty famous. But Jimmy was he was a very interesting person.
Yes.
But what the greatest advice he ever gave us. We were there as a freshman, going through freshman orientation.
Yeah.
And he said to us, "Don't mess with the wrestlers."
Yes.
See, Oklahoma State is very well known for a wrestling program.
School. Yep.
And whenever we lived in a dorm together, we ate lunch and dinner, breakfast together. We did it all.
Yes.
But when we're at the club, those are the people that you want to be near.
Yes.
Because, there was always a lot of fights going on.
Yep.
For whatever reason. People their own trauma.
Yeah.
But one thing I learned after seeing a couple of wrestlers take some folks down,
yes.
You don't fool with any of the wrestlers from Oklahoma State. You don't fool with wrestlers nowhere.
Exactly.
But, that was his best advice that I received then and still carried on today. But we had greats such as, at that time, we had a guy named Kenny Mundy.
Yes.
Kenny Mundy, I think he wrestled about 157, 158, somewhere in that area. Just a bad boy.
Yes.
But we had a lot of great people at that time with that wrestling program at Oklahoma State. They still continue to be great. Jimmy warned us, don't fool with those folks. I'm not going to come wrestle you.
Exactly. I want to also, Timmy Young, before I get more into your bio, I remember you just brought up that great backfield with, I believe it was Roger Craig, and they went down to the Orange Bowl, and they lost to Miami. I think Michael Irvin played on that Miami team. It could have been Warren Sapp as well, but that team, the U, really got Miami on the map again. I know Kelly played down, Jim Kelly played down there, but they had so many teams. That program actually had a 57-game home winning streak that was eventually snapped by the Washington Huskies. But you being a part of Oklahoma State and then knowing Oklahoma as well, Miami seems to be a little bit back now compared to what they were back in the day. And then Oklahoma, maybe not as much back as Miami is now. And, of course, Nebraska, not quite at that level. But give me your thoughts on the change. They were part of the Big Eight at that time. Now they're part of the SEC for Oklahoma, and Nebraska's part of the Big Ten. Your thoughts?
Well, Nebraska was the first one to abandon the Big Eight, and when they went to the Big Ten, everything is done based on economics.
Yep.
I was there in 2009 for the spring game, and at the spring game, as a game official, we were doing a Big 12 training camp there in Kansas City. And we went to Nebraska for the spring game. There's 80,000 people in the stands in April for a ball game.
Wow!
And the fans are going to always be there. They're pretty good. They're great supporters.
Yes.
But playing in the Big Ten, they just couldn't make it happen. I mean, they'll get it together eventually because it's not because of lack of money, but it's hard to recruit athletes to a state that does not have a lot of black folks in it. And if you're a blue chip, 5-star American in high school, 4-star, you don't necessarily want to go where it's cold.
Exactly.
And they got great facilities, and so people want to more go toward the South. That's why you see so many of the if you look 2 weeks ago in the rankings, you had the top teams come out of the Southeastern Conference or ACC. Yeah. And so there's a reason behind that. But Nebraska, they may pick it up. OU is in it for the first in the Southeast Conference for the first time.
First time ever.
Let me tell you what. Woo! It is a whole different feeling. I've been on the sideline at OU as a sideline replay assistant for the past 2 seasons, and this is my 3rd year with them. Yeah. And you can just see the size of the athletes come in from Tennessee. They're just big monsters.
Yeah.
Although OU stuck with them for within the 10 points. Yes. I think the spread on the game was 7 points. Yes. But I said it was going to be about 10 points, and it ended up being 25-15. Wow. But the competition is a lot greater. Yes. Okay. The speed, the size, and so number 0 or number 1 was always a little slim, fast person. Yeah. No. Now you got these folks that nose guard, 6'5",
300 pounds. Yeah.
And they're running a 4.5, 4.6 40. Yeah. So they cover a lot of ground. So that's what I recognize about the Southeastern Conference, and so it makes them I'm not going to call them a superior conference. It makes them a conference that's filled with superior people.
Yes.
They are huge and fast.
And, interesting talking to Tim Young and many of the schools in the SEC. I remember Paul Bear Bryant when USC beat them. I think it was Sam Bam Cunningham had a great game. I think they beat them 42-20, something like that. And that's when Paul Bear Bryant said, I got to get me some of these, meaning black athletes. But the SEC was not very integrated at all and very antithetical to black men. Now it seems like every team that's in contention for a championship, they recruit black athletes. I wish they did the same thing academically for jobs. Your thoughts?
That whenever you want to make money, and the way it's always been done in America, if you want to make money, you go get you some black folks to go to work, and that's exactly what's taking place today.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to, academically, we're not always at the top of everything.
That's by design. That's by design.
But exactly, and so having that ability to be in that position. We want folks to be in position to be able to make some money and to be there, but we can't depend on other people to come in to rescue us.
Yes.
If you don't mind my shifting gears in this a little bit here, whenever you consider what took place from the year 1900 to 1921 in America, black folks bond together. They would bond together, and they created Black Wall Street in multiple communities.
Yep.
The most famous Black Wall Street was, of course, here in Oklahoma, in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Of course, which was bombed in May 31st of 1921.
Yes.
But during that time, black folks helped each other out, and so we didn't have to worry about economics back in the day because we created in our own community. We were our own manufacturers. We were our own producers of clothing.
Yes.
The shoes. We had the cleaners. We had the warehouses, the lumber yards. We had it going on. And so for black folks to be utilized, marginalized in most areas.
Yes.
It's a change, but we have something new coming down the pipe that we're going to be able to help each other out here in the future.
I really appreciate
Black Wall Street.
I appreciate you talking to you, Tim. I'm also part of the National Black Wall Street Project here in Northern California as well. The push for reparations is so real. It's amazing that our presidential candidates don't talk about it openly, but the JUST Act makes sure that descendants of the Holocaust get reparations. Japanese Americans got reparations from their internment camps. And black Americans were supposed to be a part of the 1866 Indian Treaty, but we were excluded. If you can just touch one more thing on Black Wall Street, it's not just about Black Wall Street. It's about enterprise and infrastructure. We were excluded from the Homestead Act that gave white Americans and white Europeans 160 acres of land. We got nothing. No GI Bill, no reparations. Talk about why it's so important for Black Wall Street to succeed. In your thoughts, please.
So when we talk about reparations, there was a little bitty sneaky thing that took place. So when the black folks were freed, reparations were paid to the slave owners of Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
And they try to fall back on that and say reparations have been paid. No, you never give to the people who really deserve it.
Right.
But as far as rebuilding where we are, here's one thing I want to make clear. Black Wall Street is not a physical location. Black Wall Street is a mentality.
Yes.
It's what's in our mind. It's what's between our ears. How do we work together?
Yes.
How do we bring things together so we can get this thing done? And so as we ramp up and begin to come together and start utilizing our community economics and working together and keeping our money at home and not sending it outside of our community, we want our money to pass hands, more than just come to our hands and then 15 minutes later we go pay a bill and the money goes outside of our community.
Amen.
The goal is for our money to come into our hands, for us to take our money to go to another black business and make purchases for our groceries and for our goods and services that we need.
Yes.
And keep that money within our community and let that money float around as it once did. And there's a town here called Bodie, Oklahoma, which is one of the largest all black towns here in Oklahoma. They passed money around that area about 30 times before it ever left the community.
Wow, that's
same way was going on in Tulsa.
Yes.
And so O.W. Gurley in Tulsa, he had a lot of money, but he had the land, and so he would take his money and he would loan it, and he would pay him back, and he'd loan it out again.
Like Wall Street.
We got to have that mentality where we are working together.
Yeah.
And so as we continue within Black Wall Street. Now, in Black Wall Street Private Group, which I founded, we have our goals and we have our core values. But one of our number one goal is to help transform the mindset of our people. Okay.
Yes.
If we help transform the mindset, then we can move forward. And so that comes to we got to work through mental trauma.
Yep.
Okay. We got the physical trauma we've gone through, but we got to figure out how to make it through there because on the other side of this trauma is healing. And on the other side of the healing is unity. And on the other side of unity is prosperity. We have to get there. We have to create that bond where we are now moving forward in the area of creating what we call people who are willing to sow. People who are givers. Sow into human capital. Because here's the way I look at it. If white people is willing to put money into black folks, and of course you see it on the football field, the baseball field, basketball. Okay, how come we can't do that for each other and help each other out financially and help us in our communities?
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
We have to learn how to trust one another, and that's one of the key goals. Is to learn. Number 2 goal is to restore our trust and loyalty in one another and respect in our communities.
I agree. Talking is great, Timmy Young, and obviously having a lot going on down in the Southwest, and this is Big C Sports. I want to ask you in the few minutes that we have left, as I mentioned earlier, and you're by co-author of Pathway to Trauma Recovery, and then owner of a Heavenly Taste Educator, sideline replay assistant, and then men's group leader. And say in 30 seconds, what is it about men's group leader or women's group leaders as well? There's a lot of people out there trying to lead. What is it about that group that separates those individuals? Your thoughts?
These are people who are looking for change. They're looking for how to get things better, how to be accountable in their lives as fathers, as uncles, as grandparents. These men are wanting to do things differently because we've heard all these years men don't cry. Men have emotions. You gotta go ahead and cry, let that out. But we're not teaching people to be tough men. We're teaching men to be vulnerable, men to be respectable, not men who beat on their wives. We're talking about true men who are opening doors. Chivalry is still alive. But we have to promote it, and that's one of the things I like about working with the men. In our men's group is that we know we can do better. And our goal is to do better, and we have accountability partners, and that's what the key is. You got to have somebody that you respond to, be accountable to.
Very well said. Timmy, I know when you deal with being the fact that you're a former on-field football official, you're never right and you're never wrong. You're never right if the call goes against the team, and you're never wrong if the call goes for the team. How do you deal with it when you have both sides? You can never be right for both sides. How do you deal with it and stay focused on the game and not let your emotions get the best of you as an official, as sometimes we see a player can get a personal foul for getting into the face of an official, football or basketball? Your thoughts?
I've always approached the game because I'm the one who's doing the study in 4 or 5 hours. Okay, before the game. I'm the one who's in there doing. I know what I'm doing. I walk in every game with confidence. I was never afraid of any type of conference with the coach because I knew the outcome before we got started. Whatever I said was the way it was going to go. Well, I'm gonna be fair. The reason why I became an official is because I was cheated so many times here in the South. I'm batty, and a ball comes across my eyes, and the guy calls it a strike. I can steal a base, and I'm standing up before the ball gets there, and he calls me out. I cannot stand to be cheated. So I made my mind that, hey, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna be fair. And then that was my goal, was to be fair. So no matter what a player feels that he thought should be the case, bottom line to it is this: what does the rule say? And we're going to go by these rules because that is our standard to go by. Just like in life, my standard is the Holy Bible. Okay? Do I believe in every word, everything? No, I'm not everything of it, but I do appreciate the majority of the words that are error. But I have a standard. I have a standard of truth. And as a football official, we know what the truth is. My current position is, as I'm here at this football game right now, I'm observing a group of officials right now. And I'm going to make a report and send it into the office. But I'm watching these guys. They are very professional in everything that they're doing. They're well prepared. I'll sit through the pregame with them. So as an official, you don't go out there in your mind to cheat anybody. You go out there, you do what's right. And the majority of the time, it's done.
Timmy,
now we got what is called replay. And so with replay, you can always back it up. And that replay official, when needs be, can step in and reverse a call, or suggest that a call be reversed, or let it stand.
I was just going to ask you about that, Timmy. If you recall, the University of Miami, they were playing Virginia Tech. There were some thoughts. Was it a touchdown? Was it not a touchdown? There's always an issue. Was it holding? pass interference with USP play at Michigan. I know there were some horse collars that were not called against Michigan. Also some face masks that were not called against Michigan. And Michigan may have the same thoughts about USC. So when they go to New York for the NFL, and they have the replay booth, the people in New York, and it slows the game down, but do you like that, or would you rather just have the human element being part of the final decision? Your thoughts?
I love the human element that was involved in the game because it allowed people for judgment.
Yeah.
Then whenever you bring in the replay, now you're saying, how can we make more money? That's where I looked at it. But it fits. It fits in the game now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I like what's going on there. My brother is he works within the Big Ten.
Okay.
In the replay booth. And he's an attorney out of Chicago.
Yes.
And I will side with him 99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
Because I know he is studying. He knows right from wrong. He knows what the call is going to be. No matter what anybody else thinks, we're looking at something specific in that play.
Yes.
Is there enough physical or video evidence to overturn the call on the field?
Yeah.
And that's what has to be, and you have to have that, and that's what they search for. Many people sit on that couch, they drink that Budweiser or that Coors Light, they ain't never been to nobody's classes.
Yeah.
And they sit there just fussing and griping and a lot of shattered TVs because of what they call the official did. The official only is participating whenever somebody's doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that official just sitting on the sideline and watching it, watching his area.
Yes.
But officials are well trained. There's no such thing as an official on television today that is not well trained. We got to give him more credit.
More credit for that. You talked to the great Tim Young. Also, Tim Young, as a city commissioner, president of the NAACP, youth pastor, principal, athletic director, I got to ask you this in the final few minutes. I know you're at a football game right now, but when I look at the things that you're doing, former athlete, you talked about your brother being a lawyer, part of the Big Ten Conference. When it comes to, we do asset protection with our lawyers that do estate planning and talks about having a will and a trust, so you don't end up going to probate. A will and a trust will help a family keep wealth. You're part of the National Black Wall Street Project. What advice would you give to young student athletes, whether they get drafted to the NFL or NBA and they make so much money they never even dreamed of making, and then, unfortunately, within 10 years of retirement, a lot of guys are going through hard times. Now, as a pastor and also a president of NAACP, what can we do, or what are you trying to do to instill in people's minds that after your playing days are over, you can still be productive? Does that make sense to you? Your thoughts?
Yeah, we have this situation going on where our young men are making pretty good money. But once they get to a certain point, we typically tend to get away from the community we grew up in, okay? Because we don't always have a lot of money in our community. So we don't want to listen to our people. We listen to folks from different nationalities tell us what to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes these kids are not being steered in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not putting money back into their community. They're putting money into what these other folks saying, hey, let's put some over here and help this company out. And there's nothing going back to the black communities. Okay? I shouldn't say nothing. There's a limited amount going to the black community.
A limited amount, yeah. Okay,
so and one of the things that we do, now I work with a company called MWR Financial, which stands for Make Wealth Real Financial.
Yes.
It's at makewealthrealfinancial.com. And it shows where we help people at the lowest level with their taxes. We help them reduce their taxes. We help lower their bills. Okay, we help eliminate their debt. We help with their credit scores to be raised.
Yeah.
And then once we get all that in line, then we turn around. We start helping them with their investments and where to put their money. So and to lock it in.
Yeah.
So they'll have money in the future as they bring all this much more money home. Now let's do the right thing with our money. And so when you start investing money into to precious metals, okay? When you go into land banking, all all these things is what we help people with. And then one of the final stages we do, it's not the last thing we do, but we help people protect their money by going to use a complex trust.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know, you put your business in there, you put your family in there, you create a foundation.
Yes.
We lock that money in because, you know, if you die with just a will, one thing that almost guarantees that you will go to court.
Go to probate,
okay?
Yep.
So you got to have more than just a will.
Yeah.
And so with like young men and women going into the field of of athletics, we help them. It's my suggestion that we help them with their money, that we want parents to trust us. But I have a friend whose family, they're from the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And one of the family members was drafted in the first round. Well, my friend said he hadn't been able to talk to his family members who, because they cut everybody out because now everybody want a piece of that money.
Wow.
They don't want their money. They just want to continue to be family.
Right.
But it's that trust. That love, trust, and respect is something that we must see. These things have to happen in our community for us to heal, for us to bond, for us to grow.
Yes.
Because as we grow together, that is the biggest fear. That is the biggest fear of white America, is for black people to come together. Because they know what happens when we come together.
You know, we
are dominant.
I want to thank V. Harry, who also works in real estate in Southern California, for the introduction, and also Vernon Charles that gave me the introduction to V. Harry. And I want my law firm that I work with and my estate planners to have a conversation with you. I think we can do some wonderful things. I think God has created a Moet manifestation with us, and I really do appreciate that. We have a few minutes left, and I want to get into your thoughts on and I want you to share Big C Sports with all the other athletes, because what you're saying is the gospel. And I thank God for allowing this relationship to happen over the airways. I really do appreciate you coming on to Big C Sports. Give me your thoughts, if we can make a U-turn, to this big game down in Dallas, the Red River rivalry now with Oklahoma and Texas. I think about some of the great players at Oklahoma, Jamil Holloway. There was Keith Jackson back in the day. Of course, Brian Bosworth. You sent me a picture with Brian Bosworth. And the Selman brothers. I mean, there's so many great people that played at Oklahoma. I have a friend by the name of Chuck Thomas that played with the 49ers. He also played for the Sooners, has 2 Super Bowl championships with the 49ers. And then you look at Texas, and you think of Vince Young. You think of so many great players that played down in Texas and also Oklahoma. Give me your thoughts. I've never seen a better performance from one player than I saw with Vince Young in the Rose Bowl versus Michigan and USC back in 2004, 2005. What's your feeling for this big game coming up down in Texas over the weekend? Your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be it's a big game on paper.
Yeah.
Okay? We will see how OU's offense is able to move against the Texas defense.
Yes.
Not many people have been able to stop the Texas offense.
Yeah.
They are well-oiled. They always have some of the top recruits in the nation. But the number to look at was how many of those kids are around 3 years later and how many of them walk across that stage for graduation.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You got to say it. Tim, you got to say that again, because this is near and dear to me. You know, as African-American men, all life began on the African continent, according to Dr. Lee King Recommendo. That's a fact. Even right. In the Bible, where Christ was a man of color, in Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, the book of Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 and 10 and 6, Christ has skin the color of brass and hair like lamb's wool. But I'm so sick and tired of this thought that the SEC is the greatest football conference in the world. But it's like culling. They take our top African-American athletes and they let them go into the field of battle to play football and football and football. They don't have that drive to get them into corporate America, or to do what you and I are doing, grow your own garden. Why is it so important, what you just said? How many people are actually walking across the stage with a diploma after they put in all their sweat, blood, and tears for a football team? Your thoughts?
You know, that is so important. We don't have a lot of folks that's coming in, going across that stage, because that's not why they're being recruited. They're being recruited for the athletic talent, not the brains. Okay? When they're recruiting for the brains, they're going to go to places like Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Okay? They're going to go to these type of schools. But when you still want to play for a state college, state university, that's what's taking place at that time, is that they're just there to put money, to fill those seats up. Most stadiums are above 100,000 people.
Yes.
That's what they're doing there. And so we're still being used. And it's no different, in my opinion, than what we had with chattel slavery.
Yeah.
Except that you have better conditions. Who's profiting the most?
Yeah.
That's what I look at. Who is profiting the most? Our children need to learn to, and parents have to get behind this, and go and deal with those their students, their children, and make sure they are getting things done academically.
Yeah.
Because I went to school and I walked out with a degree, but I also walked into college with a mother and a father at home.
Yeah.
Many of these kids don't have a mother and a father, and they just need that quick fix, and that quick fixing thing is money. Well, that money is going to run out at some point in time.
Yeah.
But I believe that we need to have more of an emphasis. But that's something that we can do through what we did at my school at Eastern University. We started a Black Alumni Association.
Yeah.
Now we got something that's together. As we come together as an association, now we can be very specific in who we target or who we're gonna help all students that's there. Everybody can apply for scholarships.
Yes.
But we're definitely helping out our students, our friends' children who are going to school there and offering scholarships.
You know something,
but
Timmy?
in order for us,
go ahead, Timmy. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Well, in order for us to get anywhere, it requires unity.
Yes.
And it requires us to listen to each other. But we must absolutely, in all circumstances, we have to come together and unite. Okay?
I agree.
And it doesn't matter who gets the credit for doing it. We just got to get it done.
I agree.
That way we can talk about these things.
I agree with you as the president of the NAACP, the youth pastor, and principal athletic director. In the next few minutes, my push with Big C Sports Podcast is to honor what Dr. Martin Luther King talked about, which is reparations. President Abraham Lincoln talked about it, reparations. And I know there's a slight push for the next president of the United States. I believe it's going to be Kamala Harris based on numbers and based on how it's timing for women. And people love the black vote, but at the same time, if the black vote is only for the vote and not for helping build up the community, we got to be a part of doing our own work. And I want to ask you this before we run. We're going to work together on a national level. I'm trying to get the NFL with Roger Goodell, the NBA with Adam Silver, and even Rob Manfred with the Major League Baseball to have a push for reparations. It will stimulate the economy. And I want people to see that. It's happened for other cultures. I want to ask your thoughts in the next minute or two, what we can do to make sure at the highest levels, if we can have this hip-hop music that sings about self-destruction and you blippity-blip this and you blippity-blip blap and I hate you and I hate, and it's so negative. We're the only culture, pejoratively, that's allowed to produce the kind of music that talks about self-destruction. You don't see it in other communities. What can we do to get our nouveau riche African Americans and Caucasians too, and other cultures, to have a push for reparations the same way we have a push for music that talks about destroying people that look like you and I? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of like the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is working 100% the way it was designed.
Yeah.
Okay, the music industry is working the way it's designed, and that is for black folks to tear up black folks.
Yeah.
It is designed to be that way. It is financed to be that way. And so, as we come together in unity as a nation,
yes,
we will be able to influence the music that is being produced.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We that's what we can start right there. We have to stop letting that money go there. Another thing is for our daughters. Because the money that's buying this music is coming from females.
Yeah.
It's not coming from those brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, it's coming from females. Females, quit buying that music for them. If it's not doing anything to help you. Okay? And I love what my man, George Frazier said, we can't quit calling each other hoes, bitches, and sluts and expect to get somewhere.
Yeah.
We have to do something different. And so it's our tongue that determines where we're going to go. And so in order for us to make it to the next level, we have to come together to get there. As we come together and we get our finances together through our education, that's one of the things that MWR does, MWR Financial. It helps us get our money together. And that is a key thing. We get our money right, and we start putting our money where it needs to go. We start putting our money in our HBCUs.
Yes.
Because the way I look at it, we have the ability to turn what we watch in the NCAA. We have the ability to do that with the HBCUs in the next few years by putting our money into these schools.
Yes.
And letting our children go to school on scholarships and produce the same thing. And we don't always send them into the traditional schools in Michigan and Alabama's USC.
Yes.
Let's go to HBCUs and put the money there. Now, what can we do? Well, we have good management over our money.
Yes.
But the key to it is that we have good leadership who's not concerned about who gets credit for what is taking place.
I really
That is
do.
the key.
I really do appreciate it. Tim, we have about a minute left. Now, I hope I don't offend anybody. I know you got to go down into Texas, but I've heard some people from Oklahoma say that the fish and the collard greens actually taste better in Oklahoma than they do Texas. Is there any truth to that, Timmy?
It depends on what state my sister makes it in. That's all I can say. If you come to Oklahoma, the collard greens are good.
Yeah.
If I'm in Texas, where I'm going to be, they're going to be better because my sister is my sister Gwen she's a big time cook.
Yes.
I grew up with real food. So
yes.
when I go to these restaurants,
yes.
No, it's tough to put some good greens in a can. I know Glory tries it.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, that's not always there.
Don't let the smooth taste fool you, the great Billy D. Williams. Really do appreciate you, Timmy. We got to cut it short. I do want to say I appreciate talking to you. Can't wait to do more work with you. I want to thank V. Harry and Vernon Charles for the introduction to you. I look forward to having a great football coming up over the weekend. OU in Texas, it doesn't get much bigger than that. Now it's in the SEC. I want to say thank you for your time and thank you for being on Big C Sports Podcast. I will send you the link tonight. Share it with a friend, and I wish you nothing but the best. In closing, in the last 30 seconds, anything you want to put out there, your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I was thinking about. Brian Bosworth. He started this NIL business back in the 80s when he came up with the NCAA shirt.
Yep.
And that right there that has turned after, 40 years, almost 40 years later, into where we are now and able to get these kids some money in their pockets and go to school. Leslie O'Neal complained that he didn't have enough money to take a girl on a date and wash his clothes.
Wow.
Okay. So now things are coming up. So as we go down into Texas and watch the OU Texas game, there's going to be a lot of folks from back in my day.
Yes.
And we all remember how tight things were for some folks. And there were some schools who were able to have a little bit more money to be passed out. But
yes.
Generally speaking, but I appreciate what has been done with the NIL today.
Yep.
Nick Saban has stepped aside saying the kids only worry about money. Well, that's no big deal because what we saw before, coaches only worry about money because they could leave and go to a different university, but the kids had to stay there at their school.
Yeah.
Now it's opened things up. Now you get this transfer portal. And so I love what's going on in college football today.
Yes.
You screw things up, because you can't predict your money no more. You can't just put it all in one spot.
Right.
Those big money people.
Right.
So that is something that's really that I thought was pretty cool. But it used to be called the Texas the Red River Shootout.
Yes.
Okay, the OU Texas game. It's gonna be a whole lot of fun. But the thing about it, this is what we get to check out, Charlton.
Yes.
This is the time where things are legal, accepted, hatred. There's so much hate going on, and it is the loudest.
I thought it was love. I thought it was called Southern Hospitality. Are you saying it's Southern Hostility? Is that what you're saying it's called?
It is pure hate.
Well,
hate at his finest.
Well, I'll tell you what, as a pastor, I'm sure you can preach some love. Have them preach love instead of hate. Only love can conquer hate. The great Marvin Gaye said that. But I do want to thank you for your time, Timmy Young, being on Big C Sports Podcast. I wish you nothing but the best. I can't wait to do more work with you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.
Hey, thank you much. Appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you. God bless. Talking to the great Tim Young. He's going to be at the OU in Texas game this week. I'm going to take us off at the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. And streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Just had the great pleasure of talking to a great guest by the name of Tim Young. He's going to be at the OU Texas game coming up this week in Dallas, Texas. Really do appreciate him. Going to be doing more work with him. Really do appreciate that. I also want to say, we talk about so many things on Big C Sports Podcast. Got some Major League Baseball. I'm telling you, what a game last night. The Dodgers and the Padres going into game 5 at Chavez Ravine. All's fair and level war. Tonight we have the Cleveland Guardians at the Detroit Tigers. Detroit leads that series 2-1. The New York Yankees, they're at the Kansas City Royals, and the Yankees lead that series 2-1. Tomorrow is the night. Series tied at 2 apiece. The Padres at the Dodgers, Chavez Ravine. First pitch is 5:08 p.m. And that series, I can't wait to see what happens. As I mentioned, the Yankees and the Royals, that's a big series. The Yankees up 2-1. And the Mets knocked out the Phillies. and they move on to the next round. They won 3-1. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. We got the 49ers. They are on the road in the Pacific Northwest. They're taking on the Seattle Seahawks in a great game of two powerhouse teams from the NFC West. And right now, both teams are suffering from not having consistency in their offense. Of course, the 49ers, they had a little hitch in their giddy up, and now they got to figure out how to get back on the winning side. They let it get away. They let it get away at home at Levi Stadium versus the Arizona Cardinals, and now they're up in the Pacific Northwest as NFL Week 6 gets underway. It is Thursday Night Football, the Seahawks and the 49ers tonight. Game kicked off at 8:15 p.m. You can see it on Prime Video. Now, both teams, they suffered major setback losses at home last week. The Seahawks now 3-2. They lost 29-20 to the New York Football Giants. Oh, my God. They were a 6.5-point favorite. They're asleep in Seattle. And the 49ers, they are 2-3 sitting. So they blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter and lost 24-23 to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. They were also up double digits, and they lost to the LA Rams just a couple of weeks ago down in Los Angeles. So the NFC West is up for grabs entering this game, and the Seahawks have a 1-game lead over the Cardinals, and the 49ers. It's their first divisional game of the season. Even if the Rams aren't totally out of reach, I'm telling you, this is a game that both teams got to win. The 49ers are a 3.5-point favorite in Seattle tonight at Lumen Field. It's a big game for both teams, especially Coach Kyle Shanahan. They were the NFC champions last year. They've made 2 Super Bowl appearances in the last 5 years. They lost to Kansas City both times, and they've also been to the NFC championship game where they lost to the LA Rams when the Rams went on to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. So what a great game expected tonight. Sold out crowd, of course, in Seattle. Lumen Field will be rocking. Seattle, the defense has been exposed the last couple of weeks with only a few key days to prepare for Coach Kyle Shanahan. But the Niners are missing a beat. They're missing a beat. Maybe it's touchdown Christian McCaffrey. Maybe Deebo Samuel has to step up. Kittle has to play better. Brandon Ayuk has to play better. But Purdy has to play better. They were shut out in the second half last week at home at Levi Stadium against the Arizona Cardinals. When you look at the passing attack, the Niners, they've been second most explosive in the NFL. They completed 11.8% of their attempts going for 20 yards or more. They got to throw the ball downfield. You don't have to try to run it so much against Seattle. Stress that defense and make them play better. If you're on the other side of the line of scrimmage, DK Metcalf, if he can get downfield deep, he can cause problems for that 49er secondary. I think they got to keep him under control. Let him get the ball under. The over-under is 48.5. I think the 49ers go up there and win the game in Seattle. But at the same time, can you hold a fourth quarter lead? Can you hold a fourth quarter lead? That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I tell you, so much going on the line in this game tonight. DK Metcalf may only have 2 touchdowns this season, but he's still the clear alpha male of that offense, averaging close to 100 receiving yards over the last 4 games for Seattle. And Seattle has not faced a tough schedule this season. I'll say the game in Detroit was tough. They should have beaten the New York Giants last week. They both coming off a short week. The Seahawks have completed just 4 of the 12 passes they've attempted inside the 20-yard line this season. They got to get better and the underneath pass. Now, Metcalf was fantastic in the red zone last season with 6 touchdowns and a massive 26 targets, which ranks 6th in the league. The game total is sitting at right at 48.5, 49, and the spread is 3.5 by the 49ers. I think the Niners win this game tonight. I'm looking at 28-21. That's my story. I'm sticking with it, but it's going to be a telltale game for the team that wins. They'll be in the driver's seat at least before the halfway mark of the season and getting healthy again. The 49ers, they got to get healthy. They got to get DK Metcalf under control if you're the defense. And for the 49ers, they just got to hold on to a lead. You got to hold on to a lead because your season may depend on it, especially if you're going to win the NFC West. Well, that's my story that I'm taking with it. I was talking to the great Tim Young of Big C Sports Podcast down there at the Red River Rivalry. But I always say he's part of Black Wall Street Project in Oklahoma. I'm part of National Black Wall Street Project in California. I'm pushing for reparations because it will stimulate the economy. Who does not want the economy stimulated? Like the Marshall Plans rebuilt Europe and the Homestead Act helped the soldiers coming home after World War II, but it only benefited white soldiers. I want to do what I can for all people to participate in democracy. And we got to have that for descent as a child of slavery. I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the Law Office of Attorney Scott Thibodeau and the Law Office of Attorney George Jones, Esquire, Long-Term Care Solutions by the book, over 3 decades of experience, helping seniors get their benefits, Medicare and You, they're taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other states, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down. The nursing home facilities costs can be quite expensive. You can find out your options by calling 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. You got to tell them Big C sent you. Now listen up, Timmy. This is why I want to work with you. Our promise to you: we specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without the spend down. Is that Gap Aflac? No, that's Gap Insurance. We do asset protection. You got to have asset protection. Call a will and a trust. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists. We have ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medication, medical equipment costs, and more. Protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. As Timmy has talked about, if you don't have a will and a trust at the end of life, the probate courts, they will have a will for you, and you will not like it. They take between 10 to 40% of your assets. You got to have your asset protection. It's like a football play. HUD 1, HUD 2, asset protection. You got to have some asset protection. A lot of people have no asset protection. I was talking to some attorneys, some good old boys. They're AV-rated attorneys do Martindale Hubble. They say, Big C, would you believe that 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust? I said, oh, you must be out of your Vulcan mind. The great Spock from Star Trek. He said, no, seriously, Big C, 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust. Ask them. But they have cable TV. I said, why is that? He said, because they're out of their Vulcan mind. Spock said that a lot on Star Trek. We have a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. I'm not done yet. Not only that, asset protection. Insurance coverage required by a law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid, and attendance. What about fixed assets, Big C? Do you have fixed asset protection? I'm glad you asked. Because when those lawyers come after you, they call get-the-door attorneys. In fact, you will see a lot of signs on the highways. It says, if you've been in an accident, call 800 get-the-door attorney, and we will represent you for free. Meaning, if we don't win, you don't pay. What? If I don't win, I don't pay? That's right. If you don't win, you don't pay, because they make so much money going after people's assets. Sometimes they can afford to represent you for free. If they don't win, you don't pay. They will come after your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market accounts, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, your fixed index annuities. What about variable assets? Big C, does the trust protect that? I'm glad you asked. You got to put your real estate in a trust. It also protects your qualified money, your IRAs, your 401ks, your other investments. For example, you buy a house for $100,000. Let's say 1 year later that house appreciates to $1 million. Well, there's a $900,000 capital gains. You avoid that with your property in a trust. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. You got to find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you. Well, Big C, my friend, he does trust too. And I've known him for 3 years. Why would we trust the RDC team and the Big C team for asset protection? I'm glad you asked. Because we have the endorsements. If your friend doesn't have the endorsements, the RDC team does, and we give them to you. Before I give you our endorsements, if you're doing trust, and your lawyer does a trust, ask them, do they know how to activate your long-term care entitlements? Signed into law by Lyndon Baines Johnson. Because nursing home costs can be from $4,000 to $10,000 a month. Now ask your attorney, are they willing to put in writing, if they do your trust, that they can trigger the entitlement, and if they can't, that they will pay your long-term care costs. Have them put that in writing. And many of them won't, because many of them don't know how to trigger your long-term care entitlements. The RDC team does. And we have in writing the endorsement of the late James Gomez. Who's the late James Gomez, Big C? He advised 4 California governors and led change in California nursing homes. He also was the CEO of the California Association of Health Facilities. But not only that, he served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years. But not only that, we have the late Robert Carlson. He's the top legal counsel for CalPERS. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Attorney George Jones, the chair of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. We have also the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We have Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. But not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. But not only that, we have Mrs. Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of Resource Development Consultant, been doing this thing for over 34 years and counting. But not only that, we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz, who's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. But not only that, we have Charlton Curry, the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. But not only that, owner of Big C Sports Podcast Corporation, the #1 sports and asset protection company in the universe. But not only that, business development consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, we have Double O. She's the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. But not only that, consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on accesssacramento.org, also KUBU 96.5 FM, or eatprivate.net. And when you do, you got to give it some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I want you to hear the greatest speaker in the history of the country when it comes to reparations. I want you to hear why reparations is so necessary as we stand up for the kickoff. Listen to Dr. King, and all the money that's going to be made from the football games and the basketball games and the baseball games this weekend, they're not owned by African Americans. Listen to why we need reparations. As we stand up for the kickoff, I want you to hear the greatest speaker in the history of this country about reparations, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When we watch NFL football, NBA basketball, Major League Baseball, those teams are not owned by African Americans. There's a reason for that. We've excluded from earning money through all the free labor that slavery created. We did not get the Homestead Act or the GI Bill. Google the Just Act. Google the Just Act, and we need that for descendants of child slavery. Listen to what Dr. King has to say about how we can stimulate our economy.
And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them. He murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to thank you for watching and listening to Big C Sports Podcast Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Welcome to the show. As I always tell you, thank you for Tim Young for being on Big C Sports Podcast. As I always tell you on Big C Sports Podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone who's loved by somebody else. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Are you out of your fucking mind? Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive. As my beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever go through that crap. You need more leader in your life. Leader is an acronym for love is the answer. If someone's slapping you, only slap me because it made me mad. Call 911. If somebody's kicking you, only kicked you because it made me mad. Call 911. If somebody's choking you out, only choked you out because it made me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911. Things change when the police show up. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go to that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy back in the day. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents, mama and pop, they were beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. I remember as young boys coming from outside playing in the backyard, we go right to the refrigerator. Say, great-grandmama, I'm hungry. I want some collard greens and some ribs. She said, okay, baby, go wash your hands. You can have some collard greens and some ribs. Great grandma, I'm too hungry to wash my hands. I want to eat now. She said, baby, just go wash your hands. You can have some collard greens and all the ribs you want. Great grandma, my stomach's too hungry to wash my hands. She said, baby, you wash your hands in this house. So we wash our hands. We can have some collard greens and some ribs. I love my great grandmother, all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My great grandfather, Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player, could fix anything with his hands. He could even fix an alternator. And that's why I think she loved him so much, because he could fix things and he knew things. He always said, we help him make a fence. He said, boys, didn't I tell you, measure twice and hammer once? Sometimes the foot was like 3 feet too short. We learned to measure twice and hammer once. Happy made us redo it. I love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my grandmother, Mud Deer, my grandfather, Hezekiah, they were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. They still help me to this day. And then I could always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying, rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. Dear mama, you know my praise. I'm always praising. It's my time. The bread and butter man. I can do it now. I just need God's favor, mama. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You know what I'm talking about. God, I deserve it. I deserve all your favor. All your favor. Matthew 7:7. I deserve it all, Father. Ephesians 3:20. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, mama. The best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. They also owned 40 acres of land. I remember being 8 years old, walking through the hallway in Oakland. About 10 o'clock at night, I felt somebody touch me on my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, what are you doing now, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, cookies and baby crap. What I'm doing, Grandma, I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And now Big C Sports Podcast is streaming on 29 podcast applications and 4 TV platforms. I love him with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And my grandfather, Albert Curry, a great man, always saying, go forward and develop your mind to his highest extent. He could also fix an alternator. I think that's why my grandmother loved him so much. He could fix things, and he knew things. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we could all stay safe at night, always saying, develop your mind to its highest extent. And then my dad's the first one to tell me about the SR-71 Blackbird. It can fly from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. in 1 hour and 8 minutes. Always saying, develop your mind to its highest extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And my beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. A voracious reader, always talking sports and politics like Big C Sports Podcast. Now, we love Malcolm X, but we also love this great movie called Pulp Fiction. It had Sam Jackson, What's in Your Wallet, Vin Rames, Bruce Willis, and John Travolta. Before the big fight, Vin said, Bruce, get your butt over here. He said, take this money, and remember, your butt goes down in the 5th round. Now, say that, man. And Bruce said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. He said, that stinking sensation you're feeling? Well, that's just pride. Fluffing with you. And he said what a lot of athletes say to each other. He said, fuck pride. He said, pride only hurts. It never helps. It says football's filled with a lot of unrealistic, muddly buckers who think that butt gets better with time, like fine wine, but it don't. In terms of vinegar, then it do. He said, take this money. And one day you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis as you're chilling in the Caribbean. You're going to say Uncle Marsalis is right. But we know that Bruce didn't take the dive, and he lost his LA privileges. I love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. He always said, go forward. Don't look back because you don't have much backside. I said, I love my backside, Todd. He said my backside wasn't big enough, so I've been doing squats because I want to get stronger. And now I'm getting stronger, Todd. I love it with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. A college graduate with 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast. It became the first time in the history of the United States of America that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. They had never done that before. They'd normally go to ESPN, and then shenanigans happened, and the show went away. Daisy always trusts God, Isaiah 54:17. You can be anything you want to be, and you know you can. One day, Daisy had a soccer game. Now, she's a right-footed kicker, but she scored 6 goals. Left-footed. It was Daisy with the kick, Daisy with the goal, 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 goal. And the team won the game. Daisy can win any game. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you ever prosper. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Always know that. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for players and teams for Big C Sports Podcast. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. And shortly after that, it's been streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You're a good man. Always be a good man. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn with their church buddies, always saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Say, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. It's been nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is that gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I talk so loud. God, you hear my prayers. Do it now, God. Do it now. You know I deserve it. I deserve it, God. More manifestation in that current moment. I deserve it, God. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love doing every show. I pay homage to Dr. Martin Luther King and President Abraham Lincoln. But before I do that, I pay homage to the best fighter to ever walk the planet. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. It will stimulate the economy. I want everyone, as you stand up for the kickoff, remember as we pay homage to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and America's 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, and do what they said. Listen up now. They said, what do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super, fantastic day.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.